The first time my wife seriously considered divorce was the day she realized our account was almost empty. And I wasn't panicking at all. She stared at me for a long time and said something I still remember clearly: "Are you not under pressure, or do you just have no future?" I didn't explain because to anyone on the outside, we really did look like that kind of couple. Low income, no big ambition, not especially driven. We didn't drive a new car, we didn't chase a bigger house. Our social media was quiet, almost invisible, but here's the strange part. Every time money became an issue, she noticed something that didn't add up. The bills were paid, life wasn't falling apart. In fact, things felt easier than they did for many high-income families we knew. That's when she started to wonder if I was hiding something. The truth is, there were no sudden riches, no miracle. We just understood one thing earlier than most people. Having a low income doesn't mean your life has to feel desperate. While other couples were burning out their future just to earn a little more, we were quietly turning limited money into security, time, and room to breathe. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are not broke because they earn too little. They stay financially stressed because they keep spending. As if every dollar deserves equal respect, but it doesn't. That belief sounds fair, it sounds balanced, it sounds adult, but it quietly ruins people. You see it in ordinary moments: a card tap at a checkout line, a late-night food delivery because the day was exhausting, a random purchase that felt harmless because it wasn't expensive. Then the month ends, the account balance looks thin again. And the story people tell themselves is always the same: I just need to make more money. But the truth is, a lot of financial pressure starts early, long before income becomes the problem. That's the lie I want to break first. Comfort is not the same as buying a little bit of everything. Comfort is not looking busy with your money or proving you can keep up. Real financial comfort is much less glamorous than people think. It's being able to pay your bills without that tight feeling in your chest. It's not staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. replaying due dates in your head. A lot of people miss this because they define comfort with someone else's numbers. One person thinks they need $100,000 in the bank to finally relax. Someone else would feel deeply relieved just knowing this month's bills are covered and next month won't be a disaster. So if you've been measuring your life against someone else's version of comfort, no wonder your progress feels invisible. And here's the catch: low income does make the game tighter, but it doesn't automatically make the game unwinnable. That idea is another trap. People here make less and assume that means live badly until someday things improve. So they drift, they wait, they tolerate waste. Because they think this season doesn't count yet, as if disciplined decisions only matter once a bigger paycheck arrives. The shift begins when you stop asking "how do I afford everything?" and start asking "what spending actually improves my life?" Those are not the same question. One leads to guilt and constant friction, the other leads to clarity. Because the truth is, some expenses genuinely make your life feel lighter, easier, more enjoyable. That's where this changes, not with a dramatic sacrifice, not with a fantasy about getting rich overnight, with a much more honest question. When your money leaves your account, which purchases actually gave you something real? And which ones just kept you occupied? Sit with that, because the answer is about to expose more than your budget. Here's the part people hate because the math is too simple to argue with. A random $200 night at the bar doesn't just disappear. It becomes proof that the issue often isn't only income, it's where cash goes before you even realize you made a choice. That same $200 could have sat in a vacation fund. It could have moved you closer to a new laptop. And if you're spending around $200 a month on Starbucks, that is not just coffee anymore. That's a recurring transfer away from something you would probably remember longer, like tickets to your favorite band. One habit gives you a receipt and a sugar crash. So when you say you're on a low income, the standard has to get stricter, not looser. Every dollar needs a job before it escapes. Not because you should never enjoy your money, but because low income punishes unconscious spending faster than high income does. When your pay is limited, waste becomes loud. You feel it in the cart at the grocery store, in the card balance, in that tiny pause before checking your account. That's why a budget isn't some boring spreadsheet ritual. And this is where the 50-30-20 split becomes useful, because it forces reality onto the page. 50% of your after-tax income goes to needs. Rent, groceries, utilities, the bills that keep the lights on and keep your life functioning. 30% goes to wants, eating out, clothes, the things that make life feel like living instead of pure survival. Then 20% goes to saving. The reason this works is not motivational, it's mechanical. If you multiply your after-tax income by those 3 percentages, you stop guessing. You stop calling everything a necessity. You stop pretending small leaks are harmless. You see the line. If a want category is full, it's full. If your needs are swallowing more than half, that tells you something real. And yes, the 30% for wants matters more than people admit. Because comfortable living on a low income is not just about surviving your bills, it's about avoiding that miserable feeling of working, paying, sleeping, repeating, with nothing in your month that feels like yours. If you can't buy a coffee sometimes, or pick up a new outfit, or spend on the few things that genuinely light you up, life starts to feel like a sentence. So the point is not to erase pleasure, the point is to contain it. Then comes the number that changes your future, 20% to saving. That number is small enough to sound boring, and big enough to change your stress level over time. Because saving is not just about building a pile of money, it's about reducing panic, it's about not feeling ambushed by every minor emergency. It's about proving to yourself, month after month, that your finances are not purely reactive anymore. Look at housing first. Most people treat rent or a mortgage like weather. It is what it is. You pay it, shrug, and move on. But here's the thing. Housing is not just a bill, it's a power relationship. If too much of your income goes into the place you sleep, then every other part of your life gets forced into a weaker position. Your emergency fund grows slower, your options shrink, your stress rises. That's why a move from a 2-bedroom to a studio, saving around $200 a month, is not a cosmetic change. That is margin, that is groceries, insurance, debt payoff, or a small buffer that keeps one bad week from turning into a crisis. And if you own and can rent out a room, now your space is no longer only consuming cash, it starts pushing back. Transportation works the same way. A car feels like freedom right up until it starts collecting from you every month. Payment, gas, insurance, repairs, registration, random things that go wrong at the worst possible time. Then the freedom starts to look a lot like a subscription you can't cancel. So when someone switches from driving every day to taking the bus and gets hundreds back each month, that's not just thrift, that's reclaiming income from a machine designed to keep extracting from it. And yes, there's the less visible part too. Less traffic, less tension, less arriving at work already tired. And that's why, after the debt pressure starts lifting, and your emergency buffer is no longer imaginary, you don't stop. You build the next layer, you let investing become a habit, before it becomes a result. Small transfers, automatic timing, money moving without you having to redecide every week. At first it feels almost too small to matter, then months pass, then a year. And you look back and realize the real change was not only in the balance, it was in your behavior. You became someone who keeps a little margin, someone who doesn't consume every dollar that lands. But the catch is, if your income stays frozen, math eventually pushes back. You can budget well, cut waste, cook at home, cancel junk subscriptions, and stop bleeding money through minimum payments. You should do all of that. It matters. It creates oxygen. Still, there comes a point where the exit route is not another tiny cut. It's more value created by you, more value at work, more value for a client, more value in the market. That is the rope out. Not because everyone needs a startup. Not because you need 3 hustles and no sleep. Just because waiting is not a strategy. Time alone does not raise your income. Hope does not submit applications, ask for training, or take extra shifts. It doesn't sharpen a sellable skill or message the right people. You do. So make this practical. Look at your current life, not your fantasy life. What can you already do a little better than average? What problem have you solved for yourself that other people still struggle with? What task does your employer value enough to pay more for, if you got better at it? Maybe it's a certification, maybe it's reliability, maybe it's better output. Maybe it's one service you can offer on weekends. Start there, keep it boring, keep it real. Because the promise here is not riches, the promise is leverage. A wider gap between what comes in and what must go out. A cushion that buys you time. The right to say no to bad debt, bad pressure, and bad decisions. The right to leave a job without instantly falling apart. The right to have one hard month without watching the whole system collapse. That's what compounding really starts to feel like in ordinary life. Less fear, more room, fewer emergencies. If you want, tell me the one bill or habit that still feels normal, even though you know it's draining you. That's usually where the next layer of progress begins.